It's okay to be a different color, a different gender, a different, a different outfit for the day. Your hair is different. Something's different. You stick out a little bit. It's okay. You're going through something. This is your expression, right, Felicia? It's okay. It's okay to be
100%.
different.
Oh my God.
This
is who we
are.
are.
But yeah.
We're not robots. We're not from a cookie cutter. We never will be. We're not
we'll never fit into that perfect square that you want us to fit into.
No. Right. And if we don't figure this out as a world, as a whole.
Yeah. And we're not at the moment.
We will continue we will continue to eliminate one another one way or another.
One at a time. At a time. Instead of saying, I'd love to see a person that is this way, say one day, I learned something from XYZ person. This person taught me something. And maybe that person will open up a little bit more. But when you surround yourself with people of like mind that are in this negative realm and are not accepting, I think you're missing a lot of the world, Felicia. I think you're missing the big picture. I think you're missing so many interesting, so many fascinating, so much of reality. You're just missing out, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think that it's destructive. I think it's not only limited in belief, I think it's destructive. And I think that it's something that is its own form of demise. And I think that we as a world as a whole don't function that way. I think that there are a lot of beliefs out there, be it religious, be it cultural, be it movements, that would like it to only be their way or the highway. And the truth is that's just not how we are. I mean, look at nature. Nature is colorful around us. If you had all the trees and all the fish and all the animals, like there's no one that looks and is the same. And yet, and so how are we as quote unquote human beings, and I'm using that term loosely, think it's okay to put ourselves in, you must be of a certain hair color, a certain look, a certain weight, a certain practice. What?
Ridiculous.
This week on Camp Fifi Uncensored, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Lisa Brooks, who's a parent of a transgender child. And Lisa and I sit down and have a very authentic conversation of what it has been like to process and grow and be the mother of a child who has come out, and what her process and what her family's process has been all together. It's a really enlightening, authentic, heartfelt conversation, and I look forward to you joining me and sitting down around this campfire and listening in. And I hope, if anything, it helps one, if not many, who might have questions, who might be going through this process and or experience, and how together collectively we can help change the world for the better and keep people safe and keep people being their authentic selves. I look forward to you joining me. Thank you so much.
I'm in my weight room. I'm in my workout room. Oh,
I love it.
In the basement. Because if I go upstairs, I'll wake up my teenagers.
Oh, no, I know. Randy was like, why are we up so early? And I was like, well, first off, we crashed so early.
Why do you look so skinny?
Oh,
what? You look so skinny.
Thank you. It's all an illusion, babe.
All right. Well, likewise. Yeah. Okay.
Because we know otherwise. We know otherwise. But needless to say, I'm so happy that you could join me this morning, and thank you so much. So welcome Welcome to Can't Beat the Uncensored podcast. I'm super excited to have my very long-term friend, Lisa Brooks, join me today on this podcast. As Lisa is a daughter and a mother and a sister and a career woman and has a beautiful husband and 3 beautiful children. And the reason for our wonderful coming together is, as Lisa and I can talk for hours on end about any subject, and it's been true as long as we've known each other. And I met Lisa when I was her camp counselor, and she was my cabin camper. Right. And now we are peers, and because we don't really have that many years apart in truth, in our age. But the reason for our conversation today is because during COVID, Lisa's youngest child, who is born a she, came out and announced that she was a he. And the conversation we're having today is about being a parent of a transgender. And so I really want to say thank you, Lisa, for being willing to come together with me and have this conversation, because I think this is a conversation that we don't hear a lot of from the parent's perspective. We hear a lot of what it's like for the individual who is transgender, what that's like for them, and what that experience and that journey is like. But we never hear it from the other perspectives, the parent, the brothers and sisters, the whomevers. And so I want to thank you, because I think this will be a very insightful, heartfelt, authentic conversation. Unlike nothing like we don't always ever have, that's who we are. Right. But this conversation is something very unique, I think, for the sake of the listener and for the sake of maybe helping one, if not many, from your perspective. So thank you for joining me this morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So we're going to keep names out of this, for the sake of respect to the children. But I want to go back to the moment during COVID when your child approached you and your husband, and what was that like, and when did that happen, and how did that happen, and what took course in the immediate of, like, did you see that coming? Were you aware that this was even going to be something that you would someday think, oh, this is going to happen and I'm just preparing myself for it? Or did you not see this happening at all?
Well, our son came out to us right at the beginning of COVID. We were inside a lot and spending a lot of family time together, which in hindsight was a miracle, having that special time together, especially during a time when our child came out to us. He originally came out as gay, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And that was a year or so before COVID started. My husband and I are very welcoming of our child's identities, whatever they may be. We just want them to be supported and be in environments that are supporting, whether it's family, friends, school, etc. So yes, he did come out at the beginning of COVID, and I was in shock. I did not see it coming at all, as a matter of fact. Being gay, yes, I did see signs. His partner is a female, and at the time he was a female. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. I reacted by crying and hysteria in front of my kid, which I would normally never do. And that's because of all the horrible things that are said about transgender people, and about all the facts that I've read. I try to be an informed person in general. So I read a lot about, especially being a parent, about different kids and their stories. Yeah. So for me, it was hysteria. my son was able to calm me down pretty quickly, which is amazing how children can be wiser than their parents sometimes. But he was very serious about this and was extremely calm and just said, "Hey guys, do you have a minute to talk?" We were in our rooms talking ourselves about something else. And we said, "Sure." And he came in our room and said, "I have something to tell you. I'm transgender." And I was just very upset, emotional, worried, concerned, as I don't know, maybe other parents might be. And I said, "How could this be? I don't understand. What are you saying to me? I thought you were gay." Absolute just denial and hysteria. And he said to me, "Mom, it's going to be okay. I got this." And I looked at him and I said, "You got this. What are you trying to say to me?" So he sat down and said, "This has been coming on a long time.
Yeah.
I think I've known this for a long time. I wasn't aware of it till recently. I wasn't aware of it. But I was assigned female at birth." He tried to explain it to me in terms that I would understand, but really, Mom, I'm a male. And he tried to explain that to me, and I really couldn't understand it. This is my first, thoughts of, what are you saying to me? You have female parts, you have boobs, you have a vagina. I'm sorry, it's true. You used to wear, you wear dresses. You liked boys when you were younger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All the things that a parent would think. And my story goes way back because Leo is I'm sorry, I'm saying his name. His first name is Leo. Is adopted at birth. And I was just in shock. My husband and I had 2 children of our own and decided to adopt, which was the best gift, most amazing gift we've ever had. My husband himself was adopted. So it's something we talked about when we got married. And if we can do that, that would be wonderful. Kind of a talk that you have that you don't really think is going to come to fruition, but if it does, great. But it was way beyond that. So anyway, yes. So that was the beginnings of my husband, which hopefully you'll talk to soon as well about his feeling. I don't want to put words for him, but he was in complete opposite and excited and happy for him. And I was in absolute hysteria. That's the beginnings for me.
So since we've mentioned Leo's name, we're just going to keep it to Leo.
Yes.
So Leo is now 13, correct?
14
now. So you knew probably how old before Leo came out and said to you guys that he was gay. How old do you think you identified that he was gay as a parent? Before
12, 11, about 12, yes.
That you were coming to your own conclusion before he actually announced it.
I just noticed, it's a very good question. I noticed that he's always had a lot of friends, and I'm very welcoming, and I not lately with COVID, but I have huge Halloween parties and, invite the neighborhood kids that he's friends with. And this is how it began. But, over the play dates and the years, you form a group, right? And there's about 8 of them. And I noticed he was really interested in this other, I'm not going to name this other person. That's not my business to do that.
Yeah.
This other child who's female. And they spent a lot of time together, whatever. And it was nothing physical. It happened to be this connection, like we have this, I think you're amazing. You think I'm amazing. Soulmate, not physical, but soulmate type of person. And that's what they still have today. We just went to visit, this is in between the surge, to Arizona, where this person lives. And it was as if they hadn't seen each other in years because this person had moved. She had moved with her family about 3 years ago. They still had this connection. So, and he also told me, you know, there's something different about this person. I don't know what it is. And this was when he was younger, something different. And I thought, okay, you don't think anything of it. You think, okay, this is something different. As a parent, you're like, kids always have feelings that go nowhere. But he eventually said, I think I'm gay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I'm gay. I don't attract to anybody else, but this specific person is a female. At the time, I'm a female.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if I had to put a label on it, I would say I was gay. And I was like, terrific. How nice for you. Wonderful. And that's how it started. Yeah.
So then, I mean, it does sound like from what you shared that Leo really has thought about it. And I think, it's got to be from the individuals that I know, and I've known for probably somewhere between 25, 30 years. This is something that they do know at a very young age, like under double digits, where they're trying to figure out how to now succeed in this transition with or without the approval of their community, but just so they can be their own truth, right?
100%.
Right. And then how do you do that in a way that is authentic to the individual, safe, a journey that we know can't possibly be the easiest thing to do, especially because of all the other people involved, i.e. parents, siblings, schools, the world at large, safety, just everything. So, as you said, when Leo came into your room and spoke to you and your husband, again, I'm not using names, but and your immediate knee-jerk reaction was, as you said, tears, hysteria, horrible. All that stuff. Right. What do you think that reaction came from? Was it fear? Was it fear for his safety? Was it where do you think that emotion came from for you? So
gay is accepted. This is going to sound interesting, but it's true. Gay is accepted in our world, and transgender is like, a person walks in the room, it's jarring. People don't have enough knowledge about it. People, and I didn't either, by the way. I didn't. I didn't have any friends with transgender kids. I found out I did after I looked just a teeny bit within my circle. She just wasn't talking about it. Do you see what I mean? And we had this connection, and then everything opened up. So I just think the world around us needs more education around this. I need more education around this. I'm not an expert. I'm definitely getting there because my son educates me every day. When I ask questions, I can ask questions about the 58 genders. There's so much that has opened up into our world. I think it's becoming more accepted to be transgender. But I don't think I think families and parents think, God, I hope it's not my kid. I do think that. Yeah.
Well, I think that you're not wrong. And I think that, as you know about me, and this is not about me, but you know me as when we were younger, that the reason why this platform is so important to me is because there is no conversation that I could never have when I was 18 versus now, and why I feel it's so important. And when this light bulb moment went off after you shared with me about why I felt just like you said, most people don't talk about it. More people need to be educated. More people need to have these conversations. This is why, Lisa, it was so important to me if you were willing to sit down with me so people could hear the kinds of things that are important, that don't want to be shut off, that it is about, how do we create a safe, respectful, open, honest conversation where people aren't being judged, people aren't being put down, people aren't being shunned, people can grow together as, in this journey, because it's not about like, oh my God, now my kid announced that they're transgender, and now what, and here my kid is over here and the family's over there and the school systems, like, how do we marry all this together so we can all grow together and in strength and in love? And because the love was already always there, the strength was already there, the unity was already there, but now there's this new facet in the formula. It's like another seasoning got added to the creation, and how is that going to taste and feel and react? So you went through shock, and then you cried.
Oh yeah.
And here's a question. So Leo being born a girl.
Yes.
You had a daughter.
Yes.
And now Leo has said, I'm no longer a daughter, I'm now a son. And this makes now for a third son for you. So do you feel as a mother that was a form of, now you're mourning because now you no longer have a daughter? I'm just curious if any of that resonates with you.
Really, that I went through many phases of feeling different things. But one of the phases was just complete and total anger, not toward my child. This is about what I was going through. So my psychiatrist and I had many discussions. I think there's a time and a place for therapy, whether it's a local person or a psychoanalyst, whatever is needed. Do you need medication? I don't know. Everyone's different. But sometimes you just can't do it yourself. And I said to myself, there's no way I can do this by myself. I was crying. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating for at least a few weeks. While being supportive to my child, I really had to hold that back. So I thought, I've got to get myself straight, because I've got to be the best I can be for my child and my family. It's not fair to my child and to my family, and to be an example for my friends, to be anything but the best I can be for that child. And so I got therapy. And I just took a break for myself because I'm feeling really good about it. And I learned something really important. It's not about me completely understanding why this is. This is about supporting my child, making sure my child is in an environment at school that is supportive. For example, he switched schools. We switched him to a different school. That's not true of every child, but for my child, it was very important. He also has ADHD, so it went off into a few different angles. But my child needed therapy around this. Because at first I'm like, okay, sure, you're transgender. I didn't say that to myself, but it was in the back of my mind. Like, how can you be so sure? How can you be so sure? And of course, my child is. But at the time, I was like, he's had a lot of time to read and relax. Maybe he just read about it and thought, ooh, that's fun. No, that isn't. But, maybe it is. That's where therapy comes in. That's where somebody that's trained and understands, okay, I'm stuck at home. I'm a teenager. And I found out something about myself. I'm transgender. I need help. I need to understand what this means. For me, because it's different for everybody. No matter how you come out in any way you are, and in whatever situation you're in. So this has been an extremely helpful thing for me to realize, yes, my child is transgender. And how can I help him to be happy in his own skin, independent and successful in who he is. And I'm not talking about a career, and I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about him, his own self-worth. Because a lot of people, as you know, go down their path of killing themselves because they're transgender. And most people don't have supportive, I think it's way up 70+% or more, have families that are like, leave the house. I don't want you here. Or try to turn them back into being who their original sex. You know, if they're female, they stay female. That just isn't okay. You have to allow your child to really think about and experience, I'm this new person. Who am I? But who am I really? Like, what clothes am I going to wear? What hairstyle? I mean, it's a big deal. Am I going to change my body parts? Am I going to keep them the same? And I think this evolves over time, and you can't answer all these questions for sure. Again, therapy and having friends around you that are supportive, which my son does. I have friends that are supportive. And the school that he's at is the #1 school in Illinois for kids that happen to be not transgender, but I say part of the rainbow, but my son said, that's just awful. You don't say that, Mom. Mom, stop it. Yeah. But yes.
In circling back about what you just, said collectively, the mere fact that even through your shock and I'm just using a knee-jerk reaction as just a terminology, not because but your emotions being able to come out immediately. Still, the mere fact that even though those things occurred, the ability to be willing, the ability to have the openness that I know your family structure already has, but the fact that Leo has that for Leo, and the fact that you all have each other to be able to communicate with one another and not be shunned and not be told it's not okay and not be told I'm going to pray this out of you, or not be told that, you no longer are welcome in this household. And knowing that, as you said, the percentages of individuals who end up going down the road of self-destruction because of a lack of support, and or sadly and scarily, who end up killed when people come to realize who they really are, when they think that there's somebody else that they might be hooking up with, or what have you, in regards to just intimacy. Certainly this is things that I know from the past with some of my friends who've gone through transitions and who are transgender. So the mere fact that there can be openness and there could be conversation and there could be exploration and that there could be questions and that you could have therapy. And like you said, I think therapy is one of those things that, and I say this often, to me, it's like going to the dentist or going to the general practitioner. You've got to be able to have a therapist and know that that's okay. And that does not make you somebody who is unstable or what have you. It's a third-party source, for the mere fact that in moments like this, you need to be able to work through your emotions so you could be the best version of yourself for the sake of your child. And I want to applaud you for that, because that's what I hope, again, this conversation helps potentially one or many others here that may be struggling in this journey as a parent, who may not understand the pronouns and may not understand the I don't identify, this is not who I am. I may be born in this body, but this is really who I am. And how quickly can I come into my truth and I need you to support me. And look, I also think that, God willing, that Leo's extremely, as this journey is not necessarily the simplest journey. Listen, life in general is not a simple journey.
Especially now.
Let's call it spade a spade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But now to add into that mix, knowing that you are transgender, and to have parents like yourself, Lisa, that even with your own emotional transition, so to speak, the fact that Leo has had the opportunity to switch schools and be in the best educational program where you live. I mean, think about all the kids whose parents either don't have the economics or don't listen or have shut out. And this kid's now just on their own.
A lot of them kill themselves.
Well, this is the point. Here in LA.
They do.
I know
huge
they do.
Percentages. It's not even funny.
No, I know, because there's
terrible.
nowhere for them to turn.
I mean, we've had calls of, we had a call last year of, I can't get into detail again because this is somebody else's life, but just the basics of it was that this child was not being supported by their parents. And I can't say specifically what one of the parents did for a living, but you'd understand more if I did, but I can't.
Yeah.
But it was a male, just, and so we had a group of people that had to move this kid. I mean, this kid was in danger because the parent was so not understanding, was being abusive to the child. It was forcing the child to dress the way that the parent thought the child should dress. And the child kept saying, but this is not who I am.
Yeah.
And this is just not who I am. And so anyway, I didn't do it, but a group of people that were part of helped this child get to safety. And this child is now living with a grandparent who could care less and is just supportive. All your child needs is, okay, let's look at, okay, what does that mean for you? And I think Leo, for example, it meant his identity came out as, I'd like to cut my hair a little bit shorter. Mm-hmm. I said, great. I'd like to have some new clothes, which are more like hoodies and sweatpants and jeans and t-shirts, no dresses, skirts, obvious reasons, transgender male. A lot of like he still wears a piece of foam that he puts in his pants like a penis.
Uh-huh.
I know this, but I'm just saying this.
Yeah.
Yes. He's part of we have him in a group of kids that are going through the same thing. It's all online, obviously, because of COVID. Mm-hmm. But he knows one of his friends had to go into intense therapy because it has a lot to do with this. You take any child, no matter what they're going through, and you don't support them. You're not listening. You're too busy at work. You're too busy with your own social life. You just aren't focusing. And that's all it takes for that child to go down the wrong path.
Yes.
Sexually, mentally, physically, everything. And very soon, that child will be dead. And that is not a joke. That is an absolute fact. You can look it up. I don't like to quote things, so I'm not going to, but if you looked it up, you would see. It just breaks my heart to see that. If we could have a community of people that would just understand, when anybody goes through something and it's more accepted, okay, but I think we need to start embracing things that are different, like being transgender and being more there for people. I've gotten phone calls about this. And what do you do? Blah, 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 blah. And where do you go? And I was able to say things like, well, there's a group in Chicago that has, I'm from Chicago, that has a very nice place, part of a hospital that's supportive for this to your kid. And maybe you should go see a doctor. And there's all these facets of learning that need to come together, Felicia.
Yeah.
It's not one way to help your child. It's many ways. And you better start listening, because if you don't, things get lost and these children really feel unheard. And they're going through enough as it is, Felicia, with their body changes, and they don't feel good. They have this dysmorphia about their bodies.
Yeah.
For example, my son has a problem showering. I mean, he showers every other day, but he doesn't like the way he looks, Felicia. He doesn't, he's not in the body he was meant to be in, which is the difference. And I had a hard time on the difference between your sexual orientation. These are two separate things that people just don't understand. But we can talk about that later. But I think it's important to be supportive, whether your child, I mean, it's one thing to be supportive at school, at home, but then you put your kid in a school where he or she is not being supported.
Oh yeah.
There is no,
or the world at large.
Right. Your child is going to go through some type of bullying, some type of just people not being friends with you anymore. Oh, yeah, that's who you are. Oh, I'm not interested, and they just disappear. I've had friends not talk to me anymore. No, I'm saying this happens every day. No, it's happening more and more.
No, you will. This is not news to me.
No.
Unfortunately, I understand the community that you live in, which we won't talk about, or whether it doesn't have to be socioeconomics, but there's a lot of things that people will, in my humble opinion, without making a general statement, can think, well, we're going to create this kind of a image, and we're going to go down this path, and it's going to be fixated on this, and we're going to belong to this, and we're going to get this kind of an education, and we're going to be we're going to represent this kind of, and guess what? And then the ping comes and blows up the balloon, and it no longer exists.
The world just isn't right. The world just isn't made that way.
It never has.
And we're unfortunately, this is my political views, but unfortunately, the president we had before the president we have now has made it okay for people, has supported whoever wants to come out in a negative way. I'm not going to go on to that because that could be another podcast, but there's even more negativity surrounding transgender because of it. And anybody, I'm going to say part of the rainbow, sorry, Leo, but that is has a gender that isn't assigned to him at birth or her at birth. So I think, again, these kids are going through hormonal changes and they're living a different world with COVID, and they have people dying all around them or people they know of that are sick. Don't make it harder on your kid.
Yeah.
Be there for your kid. And if you can't, make sure there's somebody within your family or friends that can, whether it's a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, somebody this child can go to and say, this happened to me today and it was uncomfortable, or this is a great thing that happened to me today. Because some parents just can't do it. Well, I know what you're thinking, but it's important to have somebody within your home or your family or friends that can be a person for that. And then most people can't do therapy or psychiatrists or whatever. Guess what? At your child's school, there is somebody there that can help.
Right.
Okay. And it's free. Free. Do it. Because they need somebody other than you as a parent and other than as a friend. You need somebody else, somebody that really can dig deep with your child and help your child out to understand who they are and help them on their journey.
Well, I think going back to being heard and listening are two tools that we as a society are so detached from.
Right.
So the fact that now you're talking about this element of transgender. Like, we all just as a whole need to start listening, and we need to be heard, and not just like how beautiful I am or how much money I make, or no. That is shallow bullshit.
Exactly.
What it comes down to is, who are you? What makes you tick? What are your needs that need to be met? And how can you go through life in the most authentic, well-rounded, grounded, safe, sort of loving way, in the way that you do have community, in the way that you do actually make, where you can be of your purpose, you can be of your intention. And the way that starts is from the time you're a child, foundationally. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, many straight, gay, transgender never get heard or have a voice. So now we take into this element something that is so denied by society, which is something that's been going on since the beginning of time, by the way.
It has.
Like, this is not new. This is not new.
Right.
This is more of an open conversation than ever, thank goodness. And again, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that we all are a part of this world, and we all kind of follow. We like to be in the safe place, with our friends, whatever. That's just not reality anymore. I'm sorry. If you have some really good friends, you should be able to say to them, no, what is going on? I see a difference. There's something, what's going on? And I can tell a number of my friends, all of my friends, what's going on. And I get different reactions. I'll tell you, wow. I mean, one of my friends is like, how the hell can you even, be supportive of that? And so obviously that's not my friend anymore. This is at the beginning,
Yeah.
I didn't think I would hear from my friend who I'd known for many years would be like that. But you learn a lot about people when you have a child, or when you have a situation that you're having, or your partner's having, or you learn a lot when the chips are down. You really do. Well, and you need to find those people that are supportive of you, no matter what, Felicia. Well, no matter what.
Lise, so one of the reasons why, again, this platform has been so important, and the journey that I've been on since I was a very little kid, is because I personally was faced with so many things that was like boom, boom, boom.
Me too.
Nobody I knew around me, exactly, that I knew nobody around me who had gone through the things that I'd gone through. And when you and I met, that's why I believe, as a counselor, I was, even at a young age, able to counsel or be your cabin counselor in the way I was, in the way that I was open. And there was nothing that you all couldn't come to me and talk about. And why, again, that the arrows pointed in this direction to have this kind of a platform. I'm not a therapist, but I could be. I'm not a life coach, but I could be, don't want to be. I'm a person that there's nothing that will shock me and that we can't converse about, because I do believe that I am a vessel, whether it's because I'm an intuitive or what have you, or just a person who's lived a lot of life, that really wants to marry into community, how we are all connected, that this is an awakening of a time that we must, as the energy source that we are, and I'm not talking lulu lala, because that is the truth. We are all energy. We are always constantly moving and shifting, and nothing ever does stay the same. And when it comes to these authentic truths, you get to see how people do or don't, can or can't have this information come into their brains, come into their hearts, and how they process. And then, yes, you get to consciously make a choice of who it is that you want to align with, who it is that you want to go through this world with. And when moments like this come into play, i.e. Leo making this announcement, you get to see how you all react, how you all process, and how the world around you does. And it's super, super important. And you said something earlier, and we won't get into the big picture, but yes, unfortunately, I remember as a child, and then I remember as an adult when that particular individual became president. And I remember thinking, and I wrote about it. I wrote about it the night they were inaugurated. And scarily, everything happened that I wrote about that night happened over the next 4 years. And I had been asked to pull it off of social media when I first wrote it, because my mother, God love her, in her passing, saw how incited I was to what was going to happen, was concerned about my safety for what I wrote, having no idea. Even it took me 4 years later when I read it to go, oh my God, I cannot believe what I wrote.
Right.
I was writing from the position of a domestic violence survivor. My point is not about those things, but that he did open Pandora's box. He said, here's the key, unlock it. And for anybody who, whether they are gay, transgender, another race, what have you, it's never been a simple journey. So now you come down to a situation where your child announces that they're transgender. And you go, oh my God, for what I do know, for what I don't know.
Yes.
This underlying fear of, holy shit.
Yeah.
What could, I just want my child to be safe and happy.
Exactly.
Live a safe and happy life.
We don't need this in our lives. That's in my mind. I'm like, oh God. Yeah. I was absolutely a mess. And yes.
So from the point of now, you've gotten this therapy. So now we're about 23 months into this pandemic.
Right.
And I saw that too. And I don't mean that like, oh, I saw that too. No, who wants to see that? No, I didn't want to see that. But I knew when the country shut down for 14 days, I was like, prepare yourself for no less than 2 years. And I had to say that under my breath, because people were like, it was like, if they could throw rocks, they would have thrown rocks, right?
Exactly.
No, so that's my other point, is that when you are the outsider, or you are the seer, or you are something different than the norm, what is norm, by the way? There's no such thing as norm.
No
such thing. But when you don't fit into when you're the square peg that doesn't fit into the round hole, so to speak, then all of a sudden you make others uncomfortable. Well, guess what? Guess what? Leo's not here to make people feel uncomfortable. Leo's just here to be Leo.
And I agree with you. And life is messy. Messy. And for the people that think it isn't, they're not living in the real world, Felicia.
They must be drinking and smoking and doing all sorts of shit.
They must be drinking the Kool-Aid or something, because it's just not realistic. I think it's important to point out that older people, like grandparents, really have a hard time understanding it. They're in completely different generations. My mother, it was really nice because she's so open to everything. Said, and this was months ago, let's sit down and talk this out. I want to understand. Again, my therapist said, it is not about you understanding. Is it about you surrounding that child with love and respect and kindness, and helping them out in any way you can, with kind words and therapy and friends. Hopefully they have at least one good friend that they can share their journey with. But that was tough. It's not just about what I was saying before. There are going to be people in your life, whether that don't understand. And my mother was one. She goes, I just don't get it. Explain it again. And it was this you know, I am a female, but I identify as a male.
Mhm.
And then she didn't understand. She's like, okay, well then who do you like? Do you like men? Do you like women? They're two separate things. That was like, what for her? Didn't understand it.
Mhm.
And so again, Leo spent an hour with my mother, and I sat there,
Mhm.
and my other kids were there, and my husband actually was working that day, so he wasn't there. But we all just sat there and tried to explain to her. And eventually she goes, oh, I got it. And afterwards I said, Mom, again, it's not about you understanding. It's about you supporting
Yeah.
a person who you've always loved. This just
Yeah.
person just happens to be a person who's a male, not a
Yeah.
female. And I think that part was hard for me too, and hard for her. I adopted a female child on purpose. I wanted a female in my life.
Yeah.
I had to mourn a death of that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It was like that person has died. And if you ask my son, it is as if that person has died. You don't discuss the female anymore. The female is dead. Now we talk about the male. It's a reality that I had to come to terms with. I had therapy around it. I cried and cried and cried.
Well,
I
Lisa,
really wanted a female in
well,
my
you
life.
wanted a daughter. You wanted
Yes.
a daughter, and
Oh,
as a mother, wanting a daughter is a very real thing.
yeah.
And that's why earlier on I asked you about that, because
Mhm.
that's almost a separate thing in and of itself.
Totally
your own
separate.
personal journey
Oh,
to
I
be
was
able to
I
go
was
through
in
acceptance.
total. It was like another loss.
And you will go
was
through waves
heartfelt.
of that. You will go through waves of that. I do believe, Lisa, because as
Yeah.
anyone goes through waves of mourning and death throughout their lifetime. And it has nothing to do with Leo not being fully vigorously
Separate
alive.
entity.
It has to do with your own
Right.
sense of loss, but it has nothing to do with losing Leo. It has to do with just your joy of
What you're going through.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think
you're wrong or right. It just is.
Exactly. And I think if you don't have therapy, you have somebody to talk to about this, whether it's a good friend or even your spouse or whatever. It's important to get those feelings out, not to hold them in, because otherwise you're going to need some serious antidepressants. It pulls at the heartstrings, Felicia. It's, that person that is now dead, I had in dresses. Yeah. Was a female.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There was nothing. If I show you pictures, you wouldn't know that this person. Now you know that Leo.
Well, and
at the
Leo,
time.
right? And Leo was just coming into what if Leo had not gone through this identity shift.
Yeah, and I think the hormones did it.
Well, and that makes and hormones would do it. Hormones, yeah, absolutely.
Get your period and boom. Yeah.
And even prior to getting your period, because some of my friends were way prior. I mean, they weren't, first off, they were boys becoming women. And so they weren't getting
way before. I didn't have that though with Leo. Yeah. I don't think Leo was in tune with himself in that way at that time. I mean, he was just having so much fun with his friends and being a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really wasn't thinking about that. And a lot of kids don't think about that too. It can just come about through the hormonal change. But when I noticed certain things about Leo in the gay realm, which was the original, before he said he was, I knew there was something. And I've always been supportive of that. I do have a gay son of my own.
Yeah.
So I was prepped for that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have reacted as well if I hadn't. I know I didn't react well when my son, my first son came out to me. I was in hysteria. I was having worries again. He was dating women. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, these beautiful girls that he would date. There was no sign. And then when it did happen, it did prep me for the possibilities of other things that could be who my kids are. I have a gay son a straight son and a transgender son.
Yeah.
I have everything.
Yeah.
And it sounds scary. Oh my God. But it's actually been the most interesting. I have learned more about being who these people are than anybody. I read books. I talk to friends. I'm part of groups. I thought the therapy part, but I'm on a hiatus from that. I think it has to do with when you're a parent, where are you comfortable? How does this fact fit into who you are? It's not just about your child being who your child is, which is important. It's also about how does this affect you and your life? If you don't give yourself that attention, that time to figure that out, you will go through, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to hit you hard if you don't.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is true in life in general. If you don't process things in life, let alone this, what's considered right. And so that brings me to this, in regards to relationships, in regards to the effect on the family and your community. Talk to me about, you've touched base on a little bit regarding some closer friends, but let's talk about the core unit of the family right now with regards to Leo's siblings and your husband, without talking about him, for the sake of him. But how did that shift go on for all of you? And were the boys, were Leo's brothers even in tune with it? Like who and how did they express themselves? And did the family go through any therapy together or need to, or just were you guys able to sit around a dinner table or, in the living room? And what, just share with me if you're willing to.
Well, Andrew, I'm saying his name, sorry, my oldest son, who's gay, was very helpful for our family. I mean, we had a round table discussion like Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith do, or Jada does, but whatever. And a red table. We had our own red table talk. It was a very heartfelt, tears, hugs, love you kind of situation where we all just hashed it out. It was a hash out situation. It was, I think it was hardest for my middle child who's straight. A lot of our discussions, I mean, he wrote his college essay recently and I was looking at it and crying my eyes out because he's been through a lot himself. Being in a family with a gay and transgender siblings has got to be a talk that you might want to have at some point.
I'd love to.
Because that's a very different situation for somebody that's straight and the things that we talk about at the dinner table. What I'm saying?
This is again going back to the word normal. It's not normal, but it is normal. This is like not unusual. This is his
family. This is his family, and it's okay. For him. So I think he was a big help. But I also so we sat down at dinner, and after dinner, after we ate, we said, as I said, there's no dessert tonight. We're going to talk. And my middle son was, oh God, now what? Because usually my discussions are about vacations or plans for the summer or things that have to do with scheduling. And maybe something that happened in the news and politics. We'll have those discussions, or with family, whatever, but we don't have usually these discussions. And Leo said, I'm transgender. And Andrew said, fabulous, and my middle son said, oh shit. He was just, what? He goes, more of this? I have enough of it, kind of a situation. He didn't want therapy. We begged him to have it. He had it recently, actually, which really helped him. It's a lot of anger. Which
really, he had a lot of anger.
Oh yeah. And I still think he has some. He tends to he's the kind of a person who bottles some of it up, and it takes time to come out. And that's why he finally said, I really need to, because his anger, and that happens depending on
what do you
person's
think he
personality.
was angry about? Has he been able to share with you openly without disclosing, like, without his privacy?
He was able to say to me, Mom, having a gay and transgender siblings, it's exhausting for me. I mean, it's exhausting. I just, and he's, having three children is hard enough, but having three children that are colorful in many ways is very hard for him. But he said over the course of the years, I just learned that this is the way it is, and accept it for what it is. And he said, originally I had friends at school who were like, used to say things like, oh, that's so gay, or that's so whatever, not thinking about how it affects. And Dylan had to be the one, here I go, to say, you know what? That's not okay, because this is my family situation. And guess what? That I don't accept that. And these are friends he's had forever that were like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And he educated his friends. So I don't think it's only just about, who our family, it's about educating those layers around you, and therefore helping more people to understand about the world around them and the people around them, and supporting them. And I think, my middle son has definitely learned to support him, to support Leo. They say, hey man, or, jabs at him or punches him in the stomach, whatever, does the guy stuff. Now it took him a while, but now that my older son looks more like a man, that's another thing, how you look, all these layers. But I think it was hard. And I also think he eventually said, I accept it for what it is. I don't know what that's going to do to me, but it's been so positive. He's learned to be supportive around it. I mean, he even dates a girl that's extremely supportive around it. I think it's helped him to be a better person, a more empathetic and more kind and loving human being. So there's been a lot of positives around this. If he were to have a roommate when he goes to college that happens to be gay, he won't give a what. Correct. It will just be part of the way life is. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in his life. No. But he could have an employer or a boss who is one of those, who happens to be gay or happen to be transgender. Who knows? It's more common now. So it happens. So he just is a better person for it.
Well, I think, like anything, first off, there's several things to discuss. Perspective is everything. And without perspective, what do you bring to the table, right?
Nothing.
So the truth of the matter is, this has all been a gift to your family.
I think so.
100%.
I feel good around it.
Oh my God. And I couldn't think of a better person, because I know you as long as I've known you, to be given this gift, to be able to take out into the world your total family and all of your individual selves, and as the family unit, and be the rock in the water effect to a world out there, and have that positive ripple effect, each and every one of you, within your inner communities, your outer communities, and throughout. And the story in and of itself, that in all the dynamics that surrounds, that tree trunk, the branches, and then, all the forests that you touch. I really think that
it's about education. It's really about educating. And when I go out into the world with my family together, which doesn't happen a lot now because people are in different places, but when we do, we get a lot of looks because of my transgender son sometimes colors his hair or does, so he's who gives a what, but I'll get like look, I just ignore it. I don't want to allow that as part of our family dynamic. We've talked about it as a family. Mm-hmm. We're about educating around kindness and love. If somebody comes to us in a negative way, there's no hope in that area. Yeah. So we just, but we also get, like at the register the other day, somebody that's, gosh, I love your hair. Yeah. What that does for Leo is just the smile, the warm feeling. Yeah. And I think when you have a child that is transgender, besides the fact that they need to be educated, they can come out as who they are, but they need to be educated in what that means to be that person, and how they can help others. And, I think Leo will do this as he gets older, and he does help the keep people around him, and he educates anybody. Like you'll find that when you have a transgender child, that when the child was female is now male, you'll still say she. You'll have to keep retraining your brain. It is something that everybody around him that knows him well, especially grandparents, they're like, I mean, he. I do it, but it happens all the time. Sure. At first, Leo was frantic about it, and now he's like, okay, I'm a he. Hello, he just joked. But it's a lot of things, Felicia. It's a lot of things.
Oh, and there's no question. It's not like a flipping of a switch and you just flip it on and it's all shifted. This is a process. And depending upon who has been in Leo's life, starting with the immediate family versus the outer communities of who did versus who didn't know, it's one thing for somebody to not know him and to meet him as a him. It's another thing for all the loved ones within the community to come into their own language. It's a trained muscle like anything. Nothing comes with ease. Nothing comes everything that looks easy has been something that a person has taken hard on. 100% repetitively. This is no different. And love, acceptance, communication, the process, everybody's emotions. There's a lot, and the transition of reality of, as Leo matures, whether Leo will choose to go through actual changes physically, not just with haircuts and how he dresses, but physically with regards to
with testosterone.
Right. Yeah.
With testosterone. Right. Well, that is a decision that we've talked to Leo about, and he just started testosterone, actually. We go to a hospital that is supportive of this through a major hospital. And it doesn't just happen. You don't just start.
No.
This has been a few-year process of therapy and group therapy. And it's, and also his development. And it you just don't all of a sudden, woohoo. No. There's been stories of way back in the day when people would do strange things to themselves, and it wasn't who they were meant to be to begin with. That's not what this is. This is exactly what it says. You're assigned a certain you're assigned a girl or whatever at birth, but you actually are a boy. But everyone's journey is different. Some people will just dress differently, Felicia. Some people will take hormones. Some people will have bottom surgery. Some people won't have. It all just depends on the person. I think it can be confusing. I know Leo says he wants to have everything now, but who knows? He's at the age of 14. How can you really know what you want? Yeah. One thing I did struggle with was to take hormones. It means that you can, it ruins your chances of ever having kids. And I really wanted him to harvest his eggs, because in the future, who knows what the future brings. And you can freeze them. all that. Absolutely not. I want to adopt. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. But what I'm saying is these are all decisions and things you're going to have to talk about with your child. And you don't just go on all this testosterone. You start at the teeniest, tiniest little bit. It's a very slow yearly, monthly process. And changes occur to your body, whether you have facial hair, maybe you lose hair in your head, maybe parts of your body start growing, your weight gets distributed. I mean, I had to learn all this. When he was learning all, and I wasn't accepting at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, this is it. But with my own therapy and with talking to friends helped a lot. Talking to some really close friends, and then having days where I'm just sad and crying. I think it's a combination of everything. But the bottom line is, I believe as a parent, and my husband does too, that our jobs as parents are to create or to help to create kids, or help them to become independent, happy, God help us, happy, and willing to forge their own path, and know who they have, a strong sense of self before they go out in the world, whether it's to college, or maybe they don't go to college. Maybe they're an artist and they've got this great business. I don't know. People are who they are. And I don't care. I just want my kids. And so far that's happening for our kids. There's always roadblocks as we forge ahead in our lives, no matter what, whether it's relationships or health or whatever. But if you can help your kid, no matter who they are, no matter what they want in their lives, to be a certain kind of person, and to encourage them in any way you can, whether it's, with their friendships, or if they're transgender, their journey, or just mentally in any way you can, that's helpful. And that's not doing it for them. That's letting them learn on their own, not doing anything for them. My job is not to do for my kids. My job is a little bit of encouragement, but lately they just don't need it. They're pushing their path forward. Now, I will interject, of course, with my opinion when asked. But as your kids get older, you realize they don't want your opinion as much. Especially my oldest son, but my youngest does want my opinion, and it's nice to be needed.
Well, I think, Lisa, that what I love about this conversation is your willingness to be vulnerable, and your willingness to be open. And all these things I know about you already, but the world at large would not know about you, and certainly wouldn't know about you in this conversation. What I appreciate is the fact that you have been, open to having all of these things talked about, in regards to, I'm looking at, my questions, and fitting in is one of them. And it's an interesting thing, because I think that this is my humble opinion. You don't have to have gone through any of this stuff, and fitting in is just a journey in and of itself. And what does that mean? I mean, for God's sake, what does that mean? I know that just on one's own individual journey, not even having things like being a transgender and making that announcement is a conversation of itself, that we both know, just as two human beings, how people are. People can be either extremely loving, or they can be extremely not, and be the complete opposite. I think that is a forever shift of depending upon who and where you are and who you're surrounded by. And so whether Leo's coloring Leo's hair, for instance, like, being that what I do, it's like
it's every day.
This doesn't faze me, but I have to remind myself that, again, I've been on a path that's like, I must have been given the path of nothing phases me. And that doesn't mean that I don't have responses.
No, of course.
But I'm saying that, but I have to remind myself that there are certain communities that seems out of line, or that seems unusual, or that doesn't, why aren't you highlighting blonde highlights versus, purple hair or whatever it is that may be for the circumstance, or, and I'm not referencing to like what Leo did, because I don't know exactly what Leo did, but why it would call out something unusual versus fitting into the norm plus is just one of those things that I just go, wow, are people living in that much of a sheltered world? Like, or they're just that closed off? Or
well, I think so. I mean, Leo at this point in the past, it's been even before he came out as transgender, for the past 2-3 years, he's been exploring with hair color, with different colors, and short hair. And he told me as he was starting his testosterone, he said, I think I want my hair to be brown again. But I'm not sure. So when he went to the colorist recently, she said, why don't we try this new colors? And he was like, he's also an artist. So when you're an artist, color for you is like, woohoo! You're like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, you literally get turned on by it. So you want to try it out. Maybe you want to try it on your hair. Maybe you want to paint in that color. Maybe you, I don't know, whatever. I just think that that's all part of his understanding and his self-expression. When he's trying to figure out who he is. Just because he's transgender, he doesn't know everything about himself. Just like you and I, who are not transgender, we're learning every minute of every day, so I think this is just another way for him to express himself. And also, I mean, of course, my mother is she's always like, can he just have his brown hair back? But that's also an age thing. It's not like she would ever tell him this. It's what she thinks under her breath. And I say to my mother, be nice. You have to hold that kind of thing. I don't even want to hear that from you anymore. Like, I think some of that is teaching, when you have to teach people about respect and they're your parents, it's not so easy. They're so set in their ways when they're older. And I'm saying 80s plus. It's hard.
I'm going to just.
You don't agree?
No, I don't. Because
I understand.
Because I think it is an individual thing. I really do. Because I know if my mom was still alive, I know my mom being an educator and exposed to all things. Right. She was an innovative, very intuitive.
Well, my mother's an artist and she doesn't like it. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's that, but that's why
you got to let that go.
It's not a judgy thing. It's an individual thing of sorts for what it's worth. And did you freeze, babe? Oh, there you are.
Okay, I'm here.
I just think it's individual. I don't think it's like it makes your mom wrong, or I don't think it's an age thing. I just think it's an individual thing of what resonates within her own vision and her own vision of
not everybody in your family is, or your friends, or around anyone in the world is going to accept what you have to offer.
Ever.
Okay.
Ever.
No. So it is really not, I don't think it's up to you. I'm trying to teach my kids this. It's not really up to you to convince the world. It's up to you to, it's important that you are able to express who you are no matter what.
That's right.
No matter what.
That's right.
You need to pick the people to surround yourself with that are accepting and are complimenting you, not people that are, and they know that. I mean, they know that. And they do pick those people. Right.
And the irony is some of those people will be with you for life. And some of those people will come and go. And this goes back to, we're all sorts of energy. I mean, when you think of the planets do not stay stuck. The planets are constantly moving and shifting. So why do we think that we need to stay with the same group of friends of our lives? This just isn't real, because we're constantly
evolving,
always evolving. And I think it actually excuse me, says a lot about who we are as individuals, the ability to be fluid in that shift, in that evolution, and that openness. So again, going back to, it's interesting. I saw this friend had posted something that I wanted to share with you that is a dear friend of mine. And it has to do with 10 positive things your kiddo needs to hear every day.
Definitely.
One, you make me smile.
I love that.
2, I love you no matter what.
I do it all the time. Not
Right?
I love you no matter what. I just say, I love you for who you are. Don't change. My thing is don't change who you are. I love you I love you for who you are. Oh.
I love that. The third thing is I'm here if you need me.
Yep. Every day when I, yes, that's a very important thing to say. If you need anything, you can text me, call me, tell your teacher, whatever. If you're not with me, with your friend, my kids know that. And they do text me if they need something. Yeah.
I love that. The fourth thing is I love being your parent.
Oh, don't you love that? What I say to my kids is, I'm grateful for you. That's what I say. I'm just grateful for you. Thank you for being you. I'm proud of you. Go do you. I say that to all of my kids.
I love that. The fifth thing is I saw you doing your best.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And the sixth statement is you should be proud of yourself.
100%. I use that.
The seventh statement is thank you for helping out.
I don't think people say that enough to their kids. It's one thing to have chores. It's one thing, but sometimes they surprise you and they'll do something that you didn't expect. And acknowledging that is vital, I think.
Yeah. And when I think about this subject matter, think about the expansion that your family brings to the table now as a unit.
Oh, yeah.
Again, going back to what we, like Leo being the precipice of all this conversation.
Yes.
Has set forth into the world, this whole universal shift.
It's true. If you have a situation in your life that's challenging, or, that stops you in your tracks, like I did, I think it's important to educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do, put that out to other people, no matter whatever way in which you do, because everyone has their different blogging, whatever they're doing. But supporting and kindness and love is so important. There's so much negativity around us lately that we don't have enough of the positivity. So whatever your situation is, we have a friend that, unfortunately, a friend of a friend who's going to die soon from cancer, but it does everything via online, showing what he's going through, whatever, trying to educate people. This is my journey. I hope it's not yours, but if people, you don't realize what you're doing for other people, because people nowadays, everybody can see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, you knew the person. Okay. Can you forward that to me? Or, it's out on the internet and it gets pushed over. I just think that if you can help people with what you're going through, they can't even thank you enough, because everybody needs help in their lives. They might not admit it. They might not seek it out, but when it's there, though, they grab onto it tight and they're grateful.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I think that, we're all connected. We don't go through this world alone. We all need source, and we all are resource. And I don't think this isn't about Felicia needing to be out there. No, this is about me connecting people and being a vessel to be a source of helping people and
Yeah.
enlightening people through people's life stories. And this is a perfect example of that. And how many people out there are parents? And how many parents need to hear just sit and listen? Or how many parents are doing a great job and can go out there and share with their friends, hey, I'm here for you, to support you with what's going on with you and your family.
Whatever
dynamic.
it is, whatever
It is,
yeah,
we're all in this game
it's
together.
okay. Right.
It is okay.
I think
it is okay.
Right. And I'm going to shift now. I thought of something that's important when your child is transgender, and being in a school that has inclusivity as one of their main, whether it's public or private, it doesn't matter, is really important. When my son goes to school, he doesn't have to think about that, about being bullied, about he can just live his true self. And I want everybody to be able to do that, but especially as my son is 14 and going through a lot of changes right now, as he would be anyway at this age. For example, when you walk in, there's a sign of, this school is, inclusive. It's inclusive school. They have bathrooms assigned. They have education. If you're going through hormonal changes, or you've got, or you're transitioning, they have a plan from I don't remember what CDC or something, but anyway, they have a plan for how to support that child. It can't only be coming from you. There has to be other places to grab it in. Your child doesn't just need you. Your child also needs the outside world to embrace him or her, or
community,
spectrum, any of those,
yeah,
any of the 58.
Well,
but anyway,
and you're no, and I'm glad you brought that up because I mean, listen, inclusivity is a word that we're hearing a lot more of today in the language of conversation.
It's like, well, what does that mean? Well,
it means being accepting of all, and
that's right,
and including every last individual, to feel included. And it's interesting because it's a conversation that we were having since I was a child. We just weren't using the word.
No,
it just was not. Our world was diverse. Our world was inclusive because we weren't being included as a family because of our background. So right. It was absolutely imperative from all sides of my family units that we did the opposite. That people did matter, that people weren't bullied, that people were included, that people were accepted. So I think that I'm grateful that it's more of a conversation, and going back to Leo's experience of, being in a school that is inclusive, that doesn't accept being bullied, that is paying attention to all the needs from a therapeutic, hormonal, what have you. I mean, let's face it. I'm grateful that you also have medical attention that is open to these conversations, because what I know of my friends from the past, they either were going to Mexico or Canada or doing it themselves. They were taking their older sister's birth control pills at age 9 just to start shifting themselves and getting injections of silicone to create breasts and tushies, versus, having little boy bodies versus, the shift that was, also the opposite. And so the fact that we have come and we will continue to come, 30 years from now, we will see much more forward movement, let alone 2, 10, 15, 20 years from now. I'm just grateful that there's more of that. And sadly and unfortunately, as we touched base a little bit earlier, not to be bouncing all around.
It's not.
When you become more enlightened and when you become more accepting, comes with that more resistance.
It does.
The people becoming uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's what we're witnessing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll never have control over the fact that you can put your child in a safer environment, as you know. But yes, then the world at large will have its own things to be faced off with. Not wishing this,
No.
praying for none of this, but look at, it's just how the animal is.
Yeah.
And we don't have to have all those other elements to be faced off with those kind of things. People can just be jealous of your talents or your looks or your whatever,
terrible,
and bully and be abusive and whatever, because they're just naturally threatened and they're not self-developed. Self-development is the underlying, like you said, education is the underlying to all this. Just because somebody's transgender has no threat to you. Mm-hmm. It's not a threat to you. That doesn't, well, this is not an invitation for abuse. Right. This is not an invitation for you to, speak your mind. This is a human being.
Right. I think, there's no perfect in anybody's life. You can only do what you can only do. But again, when you say listen and pay attention, I find myself interrupting my husband when he talks all the time because he doesn't stop, on my husband, because he's working, he's in his work mode or whatever during the week. But we did listen. Do you see what I'm saying? We did take the time, even though you're that person, you have to say to yourself, wait a minute, stop, freeze. Okay. We knew our child was going to go to a school that was gigantic, which is not good for ADHD. So he needed a school that was smaller. Mm-hmm. We knew that the school that he applied to and got into, which was a miracle, because there were so many applicants, but he got into this school, but he fits it perfectly. But anyway, we knew that it was a type of school that was accepting of who he is.
Yeah.
But we didn't know everything. You can never know everything. There could be that one kid that drives your kid no matter what, there's always somebody drives your kid absolutely crazy. And you put your kid in this perfect place and everything's so great. But this one kid, so we can plan for what we would like to plan for, but we don't know what's coming down the road. Okay.
And I think all of us having nothing to do with being a transgender.
Right. And I think that, we all have we don't all, but most of us have the best intentions for our kids and our families and ourselves. Yeah. But there's things that we cannot predict. This just happened to be a perfect fit for our child. Because when Leo goes to school, he doesn't have to think about being bullied or being reminded of who he is and defending himself and having to defend himself. He doesn't have to think about that. He can just go to school and be, just like everybody in the world should be able to do, by the way, but can't because of whatever reason.
Well, and that's again why I didn't want to interrupt
no,
you,
you're fine.
But I want to applaud you for that. I want to applaud you for the willingness, because the irony is the last three things, and we'll get back to what you're saying, is what a parent would say to their child is, great idea, I like you, and I'm listening. And all those things fit in with everything that you were just saying regarding how you've taken all these things that have been shared with you, Mom and Dad. There's something I want to tell you. I'm transgender. Idea.
Yes.
But it is. It's an is.
Yes.
I love you. I accept you. I like you no matter what and who you are and you identify with. And I hear you. And now how are we going forward with that information? Which is exactly what you guys have done and what you're sharing, and why it's so important to do all the things that you can do while you can do and continue to do as you can do, knowing you have no control over most things other than the actions that you choose to take.
Well, I think that a family, especially when they're before they go to college or before they move out, I should say, because not everybody does that. I think that it's our job, again, I'm going to go back, to, because there's no perfect, but is the most important thing is that their home life is safe. When my son comes home, he relaxes. He's happy. He likes his room. He likes the food that's in the house. I know this sounds weird, but I listened to him. He had a weird cholesterol thing that happened a year or two ago. And so we changed his diet around. He was accepting to it. And now he likes to eat his apple or broccoli, whatever I'm giving him or whatever he's giving himself. I think it's not just important that your child has support. I think it's important that your child feels safe in their own home, Felicia. Whether they're no matter who they are, whether your teenage son, your adult son, whatever, daughter or child of any part of the rainbow, I say, it doesn't matter. When he comes home, he wants to relax. He feels comfortable. It's a really important part of their growth, that they can come home to a place that makes them happy and feel content, which means they're able to share with you, which is a place. I feel like our home is a place of, yes, he's going to have to study and sleep and do the normal things. But when your child feels comfortable where they are, where they're living, it makes a difference. It makes a big difference in their lives. I can name millions of kids. I mean, okay, not millions, but lots of kids that don't have this luxury. Okay. And I'm not saying your house has to be big. And I'm not saying that you have to have your own room. And I'm not saying that you have to have everything. 20 outfits. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just feels safe in their home. They have a supportive nuclear family.
Yeah.
Vital for their development, vital for you as an adult, vital for the whole unit, right?
Absolutely, 100%. You are speaking my language. You have to, in order to be the best version of yourself, you would wish for everybody to have a space, because it is a space. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It could be in the middle of the desert with no four walls and a roof, as long as you are safe and that you are able to be unharmed and be your truth and be in a community, be it with your parents, your siblings, or whomever, that you can go forward in life and have that foundation so you can go out into the world and do the things that you're here to do. And I get that that is a gift, and not everybody gets that gift. And not everybody has that gift as an adult, let alone as a child. I mean, look, any one of us who have had the experience of having a home life that has been dysfunctional versus functional knows the difference.
Yes.
And dysfunction versus function comes in all different packages. And so to strike the chord of, it doesn't matter the dynamics. We have a gay kid, a transgender kid, a straight kid, two parents who are women, two parents who are men.
Thank you.
Two parents who are of the opposite sex, interracial marriage, interfaith marriage, whatever the case may be, to have a place of feeling safe.
Yes.
And being loved.
Oh, that's it. That's it. And what if you don't have that, you really, it's the foundation of life, man. If you don't have it, you really are unable to function in the world properly. And it leads to many issues, whatever 100%. They may be, whatever they 100%. May be for you. And we don't have to go down that path, because that's a long and very treacherous path. But having a safe home environment. I was taught as a child, it's really important to go home and feel the love. Yes, it's not just feeling safe. It's a lot of things. But if you're feeling supported and loved and comfortable with in your own home, you're able to succeed in life in many areas.
Whether and you're able to problem solve, you're able to be faced with things that you know how to figure out because you've got the tools.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's important when you have a family of 3 like we have, to give each child to give them their own time with you. Mm-hmm. I remember this with my family, but it doesn't have to be going on vacation. It could be going to lunch. It could be taking a walk around the block. It could be going on a bike ride. Mm-hmm. Or it could just be that person entering your room for a while. It could just be sitting outside on your porch and having a chat. Mm-hmm. Because that one-on-one time is when you really get to know your kid. I mean, my God, they're changing, they're evolving, you're changing, you're evolving. And especially in the world that we live in today with COVID, you have all these plans. They're never what you think they're going to be. Never, ever, ever. And maybe they are, and God bless you for that. But the big plans I'm talking about are not necessarily going to happen because things like COVID happen. But to have that safe environment to feel to be heard, and to be sad and to be happy, mm-hmm. And to celebrate and to mourn it's so, I don't know. I just feel like I had it, and it was something I wanted to carry over, and my husband as well, into something we would have in our lives. And I don't think we talked about it much. It was just going to happen. It was organic.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah.
Well, and I think, Lisa, that those statements in and of itself have prepared you to be fluid with as life comes forward and reveals itself again and again in the ways that it has, and be it this conversation regarding what is it like to be a parent of a transgender child and how you function through that. You're having learned and then providing, taking those tools that you learned as a child and now taking those tools forward as an adult. It's interesting because, I'll speak for myself, but then for yourself, it doesn't matter how much affluence you have or non-affluence
no.
you have. That does not define being a great parent. It does not define the security of your child. It doesn't. You can have all the planes, trains, and automobiles and the 5-star whatever, or you can have a dirt floor. At the end of the day, and I've seen it all. I've seen it all with all kinds of family units.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the people with the dirt floor had a better family unit than most people I know with the most wealth on the planet.
Exactly.
Because they were truly that loving, kind unit that formulated what it took.
They had to be. They had no choice.
They had no choice.
And I think it's true, Felicia, of a lot of family dynamic that, as you said, it doesn't matter what you have. It matters the core values that you instill within your kids and that you bring forward from your experiences. And hopefully they will with their lives, whether they get married or not, whether they become the big executive or they become an artist or they become a football player, whatever they become. Some of these values are so important, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are.
Well, and those values, as you said, it's like building a home. You got to build on a foundation of solid ground. You got to build so that, you don't have something that collapses. And when you go out into the world, no matter who environmentally you are interacting with in business, in community, in church, in whatever it is, your values do matter. And your
They do.
values are what actually keeps you solid through all the crazy that's out there. Because there actually sadly is quite a dynamic of individuals out there who strangely don't and have not been given values. They don't have a moral compass. They don't have integrity. They don't.
It all starts at home. It all starts at home.
It is environment.
And I feel bad for teachers today because they do a lot of struggling with trying to help these kids to learn when their family environment is just. I feel bad for the families and the kids.
Yeah, me too.
But if you can do that for your kids, if you can just start with the basics, the food, clothing, shelter thing in any form it comes to you.
Yeah. That's
great. And if you can, I have 3 children that are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so different that it doesn't seem like they, even make sense, but they do, because that actually is more interesting than having everything one color. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Having the rainbow, having the interesting things that come about and things that just get thrown at you. It's interesting. So, and we were talking about family, we're talking about school. I also think it's important to have a grandparent or two that also listens. I know Erin's, I'm going down that path. Mother is very supportive of Leo. And I think it's helpful because we were at dinner the other day in COVID. We were kind of at a part of a restaurant which I hate doing, but I have my mask on all the time. But anyway, it was part of the restaurant was empty. And we know the people that own it. So we just went and had a little meal together. And at the end of the meal, we were all kind of breaking off and talking to each other. And the grandmother pulled Leo aside and said, "Hey, what's going on? What are you up to?" And it was like, I wanted to cry, Felicia. Mm-hmm. I actually had to go to the bathroom and I did tear. I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. And that's because she gets it. Mm-hmm. And that she must have had that in her life in some form. Oh, because sometimes it's just sitting down with whoever you're sitting down to and just saying, "So what's up?" And really listening and really saying, no, what's up? Let's get down to it. Having that support of grandparent or two, actually, and having the support of some key friends and being at this is kind of like a melding of a perfect situation for this one person named Leo. It's not going to happen for everybody. It's not going to, there were situations he was in originally where I thought, oh my God, this is never going to work. And it was when he was in this gigantic school when he was younger. He was also a she. And so everything was quiet, but when things started turning, it wasn't it wasn't okay anymore. It was name calling. It was bullying. It was, I don't want to be your friend anymore. It was, my mother said, or my father said, blah, blah, blah. It was not good. I'm just saying I could go on for years about this. And my older son had this too, as well, being gay. Oh my God, did he have it? And still, he really doesn't get it much, but every now and then he was out once and dating a different person. This was years ago. And he was kissing his boyfriend at the time. And this total stranger said, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" Excuse my French. How dare you? And this is, and my son used it as a teaching moment and said, "I am a gay man kissing my boyfriend. And this is how I choose to express myself." And he walked away. I don't know why people are like that, but it's okay to be a different color, a different gender, a different outfit for the day. Your hair is different. Something's different. you stick out a little bit. It's okay. You're going through something. This is your expression, right, Felicia? It's okay. It's okay to be
100%.
different.
Oh my God.
This
is who we are.
Heart-wrenching, but yeah.
We're not robots. We're not from a cookie cutter. We never will be. We're not
We'll never fit into that perfect square that you want us to fit into.
No. Right. And you know, if we don't figure this out as a world, as a whole.
Yeah. And we're not at the moment.
We will continue to we will continue to eliminate one another one way or another.
One at a time. One at a time. Instead of saying, I'd love to see a person that is this way, say one day, you know, I learned something from XYZ person. This person taught me something. And maybe that person will open up a little bit more. But when you surround yourself with people of like mind that are in this negative realm and are not accepting, I think you're missing a lot of the world, Felicia. I think you're missing the big picture. I think you're missing so many interesting, so many fascinating, so much of reality. You're just missing out, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think that it's destructive. I think it's not only limited in belief, I think it's destructive. And I think that it's something that is its own form of demise. And I think that we as a world as a whole don't function that way. I think that there are a lot of beliefs out there, be it religious, be it cultural, be it movements, that would like it to only be their way or the highway. And the truth is that's just not how we are. I mean, look at nature. Nature is colorful.
Around us.
If you had all the trees and all the fish and all the animals, like there's no one that looks and is the same. And yet, you know, and so how are we as quote unquote human beings, and I'm using that term loosely, think it's okay to put ourselves in, you must be of a certain hair color, a certain look, a certain weight, a certain practice. What?
Ridiculous.
Let alone, you know, this again will be another podcast unto itself for us to discuss, and happy to look forward to doing that with you, because I love this conversation, as you know. I think that I think we have so much to learn as human beings. This is why personally I think that this conversation together was so important to open up and to bring to the surface, because yes, there may be groups that parents like yourself are connected to, but on a public level, on a public platform, there is less of this discussion happening of how did that affect you? How did that affect the family? How did you process that? Where do you, you know, how did you support your child? And I'm just thankful that you were willing to be open. Not that I ever questioned it, but I know that it's a vulnerable conversation, that making a public statement, whether one person hears it or hundreds of people hear it, is something that will be of value to many.
Thank you. I also think, thank you, Felicia.
Of course.
I love you, babe. But I wanted to say also that I don't, this is going to sound bad, but I don't know. I mean, I've always been open to stuff, but I don't know if I would be as open as I am. I'm open. If I hadn't had a gay and transgender kid, if I hadn't had the experience of it. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying I wouldn't be open. Of course I would, but I don't think it's as easy as a flip of a switch, Felicia. I think people have to go through something themselves, whatever it may be, to open up themselves to something else and then something else. And I think it's like a evolutionary process, but because originally I was hysterical. I mean, about my kids being who they said they were. Hysterical. I was not okay with it. I was then educated and open to learning about what that meant and who that meant, what that meant for me. and I was able to mourn it and whatever. I was able to go through my process, and through a process what most people should go through. But I think that you need to, I think if your life is always perfect and everything's always woohoo, I don't know. I just don't know if it's easy for you to be open to new anything, Felicia. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course. I think perspective is again everything, and nobody can prepare themselves enough for the lessons that they're going to learn in life and what they're going to be faced with. And in this particular case, your children's, one being gay and one being transgender. Could you have imagined that, and how you would have chosen to show up to go through that? No. But are you better for it? Oh my
yes,
God.
That's what I'm, yes, 100%.
Yes. And again, the gift that it has brought to you and the richness that your family as a whole, let alone individually, gets to be to the world, whether it's within your own inner family unit, your immediate communities, be it in your education or be it in your communities of your neighbors or your long-term friendships, or the communities that you're going to touch going forward. I personally think that, like all lessons learned or like all life things that we're faced with, no matter if it's through health or death or whatever the case may be, that these are gifts, that they are not like,
I think even illnesses and things, you learn, hopefully you come out on the other side,
right?
You learn something about yourself, your friends, the people around you. You learn a lot.
100%.
I do think you're right. And I kind of want to plug something. And that is, if you do have a child that's transgender, if you do have a child that's gay, if you do have a child that's not the typical child, I don't know what the hell that means, but I think you know what I mean.
I do.
Sit down with that child and say, I'm here for you. I'm listening. How can I help you? What can I do for you? What do you need? Should I just sit here and listen? What do you really want from me? Instead of pushing it aside and ignoring the reality of what's right in front of you. Because ultimately you're hurting your child. Ultimately, that child might not be your child anymore. I'm going to be realistic. Ultimately, that child could kill himself or herself, or go down a path that no child should go down. I don't need to define things, because if you look up what I'm saying online, it'll take you 2 seconds. You'll know exactly what I mean. I think it's really important, whether you have a gay or straight or transgender or whatever, any child, that you listen, but especially when your child says I'm transgender, especially. Their statistics are just too huge against them, against anybody who's transgender. So if you can listen, and if you can, hopefully you can support the child and give the child what it needs, the basics, whether it's help with somebody at school can help your child, or making sure to advocate for the friendship with with that friend that child has, and making sure they see that friend or talk to that friend online on a regular basis. Because when you have a young child, sometimes they don't know everything that they need. Okay. And maybe we do, maybe we don't, maybe we have to still learn, but that's all part of the process. But please don't take it for granted when your child says, by the way, I'm transgender, and say to yourself, oh yeah, right. Sure you are. That's not true. How could you say that to me? Or I'm not talking to you about this. I don't have time for you. The things that we say to ourselves, we do say them, and we regret them. You will regret not listening. You will regret it. And you owe it to your child to help them to be the best, whoever that they want to be, the best of whatever that is. If your child says, I want to be the best garbage collector ever, good. They've chosen something. That's what if your child wants to work in the forests, and I don't know what that means, but be a forest ranger, great, whatever. If your child wants to be a top executive, a model, whatever your child wants to be, at least be there for them in support. Okay. All it takes is one no, or one person to be your child's best advocate. If I can teach you anything, that doesn't mean doing everything for your child or living through your child. All it means is, I'm here for you. I love you. When my children go to school every day, I say to them, I love you every single day. And they say, I love you too. Now, it sounds like nothing. It's just, I love you. But they know I love them, and they know what that love means because we've defined it as a family. If you can also do that and give your family a supportive home, whatever that may be, I think it's important. And if that means you need to change your child's environment or school or friendship group or whatever, you're talking about a young kid, not an older kid, you do that. Do that for your kid. If your child says, I'm sad, I'm not feeling okay, don't just push that aside. Listen, put down your cell phone, your iPad, your texting, whatever you're doing. You need to stop and listen. I think that we can all be better parents in some way. I know I'm not perfect. And better people for other people. I think it's important for Felicia to do that.
Lisa, I think I think that I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your willingness to be present and share all of this. I think that everything that you've just shared has been extremely powerful and heartfelt and true. And I think that even though I know that it has not always been an easy road, and it's been, at moments in time painful, the way that you and the family have gone through this, and I'm only going to speak of yourself technically because we're talking about your journey, even though it's a collective journey, I think is an inspiration, and of course, and I think that, and I applaud you for the willingness to grow, and so you could be the best version of yourself as a mother and a conduit for your child and children and your family, and that was a choice. You made a choice. You made a conscious choice.
Yeah.
And people, that's like all life is a series of choices. And your intuition guided you to know that being in your own way only meant that it would be in the way of your entire family. And so making the intuitive choice to say, I need to get out of my own way so I can help my child for the sake of my child
100%.
Is everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
If you can't fix, or at least get, have somebody to talk to get past your own self, whatever it may be that you're struggling with, and be present for that person, that child, it's everything, Felicia. If you can say one supportive word a day, one support, love, kindness, whatever, if you can just put out a few positives, it changes everything for them. Everything. Without it, I don't think they will be able to survive. Maybe they will, but the other side is not good.
Well, I think it's basically, it's the combination of the power of presence, the power of word, and the power of just love of just so watering that flower and giving it the source of what it needs to fruition. And I think that, from everything that you've shared, in these past couple hours has been a culmination of all of that. I think you were doing that before. I think that that's what gave Leo the safety to be able to be just so matter of fact, this is what it is. And then the process of where you've been able to go since then. And maybe COVID, even in its own crazy way, was a blessing on top of it, because it gave you, as a family unit, the space and time collectively to be together, to grow together and expand together and figure things out together. And as well as individually, and keep coming back and going in and out of this process. And I think that you are a great example of how others hopefully can hear your story and be a conduit for other people to be able to look in the mirror and say, I know that there's something going on here. I need to stop detaching from this reality and get grounded in this reality and find out what really is going on here, and how can I help be present to what this child or my children need, and how can I help source that situation?
Well, I want to thank you for this experience, because it also is therapeutic for me to be able to talk it out, especially to somebody I respect, which of course is you. I've known you for ages, and we reconnected recently, and it's been a huge blessing for me. So thank you very much for today.
That means the world to me. It means the world to me that you entrusted me to be able to have this conversation, because for me personally, my goal is to make you feel safe, and my goal is to make you feel heard. And my goal.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I appreciate. No, I really think that you're doing the best you can at helping people to feel comfortable telling their stories, because that's half the battle. And I respect you so much for doing this. I know you do this with a lot of people. I think you're helping the world, and I respect it, and I applaud it. So thank you, Felicia. This has been just wonderful for me today to be with you, because I've known you for a while, but to have this experience just brings us even closer as friends. So thank you.
Well, I have chills. I love you.
Me too. Love you too.
I've always adored you ever since I think you were like 11 years old when I first met you. And again, that goes back to 1980. So we can all do the math, and we don't need to go there. But the point is that I've always loved and cared about you, and I've always wanted the best for you.
Likewise.
Thank you. And to be able to, even though our lives came and went and came back together, having this conversation to me was no different than having a conversation with you when you were 11. Because though it is impactful, and though it is an incredibly important conversation, this to me was like sitting around the campfire, no different than what we did when we were children.
Marshmallows, singing camp songs.
And having deep conversations, because there was nothing you couldn't talk to me about. So again, it does mean the world to me that you felt safe enough to be able to share this very important conversation that I hope resonates with many.
Me too.
And that
Me too.
it does help.
If I can help just one family, it's enough for me.
Yeah, same. I love you so much.
Love you, Felicia.
So much. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
Look forward to it. Bye.
Bye.
Join me next week as I continue this conversation with Lisa's husband, Aaron Brooks, and his perspective on being a father of a transgender child, and how it affected him, and how he, as a parent and a husband and a community advocate, has chosen to participate in the authentic development of sharing this story, of being a support to his child, and how he wants to be a participant in helping others to be better for their children, to keep them safe and to expand the minds. I look forward to you joining me next week as we continue this conversation on being a parent of a transgender child, and how we as a community want to open our minds and know that this is a part of who we are, how we are, and where where we're going and what is important in life, and that all lives do matter regarding mental health, safety, and who people are born to be. Thank you so much. Bye for now.